Hello everyone and welcome to this video on modelling components in Fusion 360. In this video we're going to be modelling the Spar component that you can see on screen now. If you would like to follow along with this exercise you can find an engineering drawing for the component in the video description below. Okay, so first things first, we're going to create a new Fusion 360 design, and we do that by clicking the New Design tab at the top of the window. Now, for this particular component, the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a sketch which represents the main outline of the component. So I'm going to go to my Create Sketch button, I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to select the XY plane as the plane that I wish to sketch on. Now firstly I need a rectangle, so I'm going to pick the 2-point rectangle tool, and I'm going to sketch a rectangle starting at the origin of my component. Now from the engineering drawing for this component I know that the width of my rectangle is 105 millimeters. By studying the engineering drawing, I don't know exactly what this dimension is just yet, but I can construct the exact dimensions of the outline of the component using the information that I'm given. Now if we look back at our reference component, we can see how this front face of the spar is curved. So I'm going to sketch that in as an arc. So I go to Create and I go to Arc, and I want a 3-point arc. So I want my arc to extend from the bottom left corner to the bottom right corner, and I want it to protrude slightly into the component. Okay, I can also see from my reference component that I have a rib or a web of material running down the center of the component. So I'm going to sketch this in as well. So I go back to my sketch window and I'm going to get my line tool. If I hover or if I start sketching from the top of my component, once I get towards the center of a line, you'll find that it snaps to that midpoint, and we can see that we get an indicator of that by seeing this blue triangle here. So I'm going to snap to the center of that top line. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to create a vertical line downwards until that joins with my existing arc. I also know that the thickness of this web is 2.5 millimeters, so I'm just going to put in 2 additional vertical lines that aren't going to be the right distances just yet, but I just want to get those in there. Okay, next I can dimension these lines so that they are the correct width. So the distance between this line and the center line distance between this line and the center line is 1.75 millimeters, and the distance between the center line and this line is also 1.75 millimeters. Okay, now if I look back at my sketch, I know that the distance or the length of this center line is 45 millimeters once I've taken into account the 2.5 millimeter border running all the way around the edge of the component. So I can get my dimension tool again, and I can dimension the length of this center line, and I know this is 45 plus 2.5 plus 2.5. Now I can either do the arithmetic for that in my head, in this case it's quite simple, or I can use the Fusion dialog box to do the calculation for me. So I can press 45 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 and press the enter key. And now I've got a line which is 50 millimeters long, and if I double click on that box I can see the sum or the equation that I've used to generate or get to that value. Okay, so I still need some more information here because I can see that lines on the bottom of my sketch are still blue. This means that they're not fully constrained, and I still have some degrees of freedom left here. So if I move or I grab some of these lines and I try to move them, I can see the way in which my sketch has been allowed to move. So I can see that if I grab this this arc here and I move it, the radius of my arc is getting bigger and smaller as I move it. So from my engineering drawing I can see that the radius of this arc should be 278 millimeters. So again I can go to my sketch dimension tool, can click on this, and I can set this to 278. And as soon as I've done that I can see that all of the sketches, or sorry, all of the lines within my sketch turn black, meaning that this sketch is fully constrained. So at this stage I'm happy with my sketch and I can press Finish Sketch. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create an extrude feature for the main body of my components. So I'm going to go to Extrude, and I'm going to select all of the profiles which I need to extrude. And I'm going to extrude these at total distance as 20 millimeters as per the engineering drawing. Now if I look back at my reference component, I can see that I've got two distinct pockets here, two distinct pockets of material, and the way that I'm going to create this geometry is I'm going to create a single shell command that will remove all of the material from the center of my component, and then I'm going to create an additional extrude command which will extrude this web in the center. So I go back to my component, I go to shell, and I click on the top face of this component, and I set the width of my border, which is 2.5 millimeters as per the engineering drawing. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add in the material for that center web. Now, when I created my first extrude feature, it's what Fusion 360 has done is automatically hide that sketch because it believes I'm done with it. I need to use some more information from that sketch, so I'm going to go to the arrow. Go to the browser in the top left corner of my window. I'm going to click the arrow next to sketches, and I'm going to turn on the eye, or press the eye icon to turn on the sketch which was previously hidden. Now I can go to my extrude tool, and I can select the profiles for the center web that I need to add back in. I can grab my blue arrow and move that towards the top of my component. Now, because my sketch profiles interfere with existing geometry, you can see how Fusion has defaulted to a cut operation. That's not what I want here. I want a join operation. So I change this operation type to join, and as soon as we do that, we can see how it's added in the material. Now, I could set the height of this extrude feature to be 20 millimeters, but that would mean that if I ever change the height of this spar, then the central rib may not line up with the top face of the spar. It might be slightly short like this. So rather than giving this a numerical value, I'm going to change my extent option to from distance to object. And then all I need to do is I need to pick the top face of my spar. And what that means is that no matter how my spar changes now, this extrude feature will always extrude material until it reaches the top face of my component. Just double check that we are still creating a join operation, and we are. So I'm happy with that feature, and I can press OK. I no longer need this sketch I've created, so I can press the eye icon next to sketch and turn that off. Now the only thing that remains to be done is to create the fillets or the radii in the corner of my component. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the smaller radii of 2.5 millimeters. So I do this by going to modify and fillet, and I'm going to pick the outside edges of my component. Now if I do what I've just done there and I pick a face by mistake, I can just click it again and it will deselect it. So I'm going to pick the edges on the corner, and I'm going to pick multiple edges by holding down the control key and clicking multiple edges. I know this is a value of 2.5 millimeters, so I can enter that value and then press OK. I'm then going to create the radii on the inside of my component in a similar way. So I go to modify fillet, I pick the edges of my component where I need to create the fillet features. I enter my value of 2.5 and I press OK. Now the final feature that I need to create is the fillets in the bottom of these pockets. So again, I go to modify and I go to fillet, and I pick the edges that are running around the bottom of my component. I set these to 5 millimeters as per the engineering drawing, and then additionally I need to pick two additional edges which are the inside of this central rib or web, and I set those to 5 millimeters as well. I'm happy with that feature, so I can press OK. And then just one final check. If I look back at my reference component, I can see that I've created the correct outline feature with this curved front face, and then two pockets with a central web. So I'm happy with that component, and I've finished modeling it. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.